Hi everyone, my name is Erica Martin, and today we're going to be going over Chapter 14, which is all about ebooks. So I'll let you know when to go ahead and change the slide so you can follow along easily. So let's go ahead and move on to the first slide, Introduction. So the ebook is a digitized version of a book, which is meant to be read on a computer, e-reader, tablet, or smartphone. Many of the best-selling ebook titles are also digital versions of popular print books. So the ebooks don't have any significant structural changes compared to the print form, but some have animation, video, hypertext, and social networking to create a more interactive reading experience. The goal of the ebook is to provide the ability to read books through an on-screen interface rather than in print. Let's go ahead and move to that next slide. So components of ebooks. The different components are, we have the content, which is the text and images of the book. The message written is what is being communicated, and the software is what allows the message to be displayed. And then the hardware was developed specifically for e-reading, and most important hardware for ebooks is the e-reader. Let's move to that next slide. So e-readers. An e-reader is a lightweight handheld device, generally only weighing about half a pound, nothing crazy. And they're designed specifically for reading ebooks and other digital text such as newspapers and magazines. They can hold thousands of books, so you can have all of your books in one spot. And they have the ability to download new content at any time and anywhere. As long as you have a connection to the internet, you can connect it to your computer, or now we also can connect to data. So while e-readers are designed to read ebooks, there are also other devices that you can use, such as computers, tablets, and smartphones. Let's move to that next slide. So the background of ebooks. So the original development of the ebook predates the e-reader and adoption of ebooks by about 20 years. Michael Hart began Project Gutenberg in 1971. He wanted to create a digital library to catalog and make accessible all human knowledge, which is a very lofty goal. His desire was to provide 99% of the public with free access to very low-cost versions of books and documents that were already in the public domain. For 20 years, the ebook continued being developed without any specialized reader and was only used by a small number of people who had access to a computer. Therefore, spread of ebooks was limited during that time because it wasn't common for people to have a personal computer. But once personal computers and internet access became more accessible, the adoption really started accelerating a little bit more for the ebooks. Plus, with the adoption of the internet, when that came along, online retailing was able to create the right environment to sell the ebooks and make them more popular too. Let's move on to that next slide. The Sony Discman was the first portable e-reader in the 1990s. It used a compact disc, which are CDs, as a method of storing data, which allowed for reading books without a bulky hard drive attached to it. So it accessed the information from the miniature CDs and displayed the information on the screen, which you can see in the nice picture of the Sony Discman right next to the information. And then it would be another 17 years before an e-reader was introduced into the market that actually became popular. Let's move to that next slide. So e-ink. What is e-ink? E-ink is used in e-readers to make it look like you are actually reading a book and not reading this information on a computer screen. So one of the biggest technical advantages of e-readers was the development of this electronic ink, which is referred to as e-ink. It was a spin-off of MIT's Media Lab e-ink Corporation. It combined chemistry, physics, and electronics, and it created digital ink that looked very similar to ink on paper. So when using an e-reader or tablet, the paper can actually fool a reader's eyes to think that they are reading the ink on paper and not on a computer screen. And then Sony again led the market in 2006 when it offered the Sony Reader, the first e-reader to offer an e-ink display. Moving on to that next slide. So, what e-ink looks like. If you're not sure what it looks like, I provided a link to a commercial here. That is actually for the Amazon Kindle. And you can see how you can read an e-reader in the daylight without having to adjust the brightness or anything. And it does actually look like it is ink on paper. So when you go ahead and have a chance to watch the commercial, we'll go ahead and move on to that next slide. So, the Kindle, the Nook, and the iPad. So Amazon released the Kindle Reader in 2007. It marked the first time an e-reader was a popular success. This was due to the success of Amazon already being able to successfully sell books online, and through these interactions they were able to easily sell ebooks and e-readers. Amazon already had expertise in distributing both hardware and software, so it made it a perfect fit for them to be selling the Kindle. Before the Kindle, ebooks were in universal formats such as PDF or plain text, but Amazon released a Kindle with proprietary format that could only be read on the Kindle. So therefore, when Barnes & Noble released the Nook in 2009, you weren't able to read Nook books on the Kindle and vice versa, and Barnes & Noble came out with their own proprietary format. Then in 2010, the Apple released the iPad. And the iPad actually allowed readers to access both Kindle and Nook formats, but it had its own proprietary format as well, which you could get through the iBook store, and this couldn't be read on the other two machines. The iPad also lacked the e-ink display, so the reading experience was more like reading on a computer than it was reading an actual book. But the iPad did alter the landscape of the e-reader market by providing more functionality to device than the benefits of the other e-readers. So you could also browse the internet, play games on it, than just read books. And then before the holiday season in 2011, Amazon released the Kindle Fire, and Barnes & Noble released their Nook tablet. And these both had similar capabilities and functionalities of the iPad. So I actually have a Kindle myself. It's the Kindle Fire, and it definitely has the functionality of a tablet. I can watch movies on it, play games on it, read on it, browse the internet, do whatever my heart's content is on it, and also read some great books. And then smartphones have also become a major part of e-reading, as consumers are accustomed, to having your smartphone with you at all times, and it's great to be able to access a book on there if you would like to. Let's move on to that next slide. So recent developments. E-reader sales have decreased, but e-books sales have grown. This is due to the fact that e-readers haven't really developed much more than they were back in the early 2010, 2007 era. There's been a lot of improvements, but not enough for a dedicated e-reader to really want to upgrade to a new one, or for it to be really necessary for them to. Amazon just pretty much has focused on their Kindle Fire, and in 2015 they introduced the Kindle Fire that was sold for $50, and that was at a lower price than their dedicated e-reader. So you could get a Kindle Fire and have the functionality of an e-reader and a tablet, or you could get a dedicated e-reader for a higher cost. So most people have gone with the Kindle Fire. And then 54% of ebooks buyers have used smartphones to read ebooks, a number that continues to grow, and this was just in 2014. So that number has definitely grown since then. And then after the introduction of the iPhone 6, 45% of ebooks downloaded from iBook were to phones, which was a massive jump from only 28% before. Again, showing how smartphones are really becoming the e-readers of our generation. On to that next slide. So the format of ebooks. Apps have become more important than the actual dedicated e-readers themselves now. You have your Kindle app, you have your Nook app, you download that on your tablet, on your smartphone, and you're good to go. You can access all of your books. You can switch back and forth between them if you would like as well, and have both on one phone or tablet. The mixed format issue is a large reason why the Nook is failing and why Amazon has kept market dominance. Amazon Prime is a big part of that. You can access it through your tablet, your Kindle Fire, and they also have that better distribution since they started as an online bookseller as well. The various formats have fragmented ebook consumers into groups that own a particular device. So you have your Kindle Fire users, you have your iPad users, and you have your Nook users. And they generally don't mix and match, and again, the Kindle Fire seems to be dominating this area. There's also the hassle of switching from an e-reader. Once you have all of your books on it, you have to purchase an e-reader, then you potentially have to purchase all your new books. So once you have an e-reader, you're pretty much going to stick with the one that you have. PDF format is available on all devices, but it doesn't have the functionality that an e-reader does, so it really hasn't been used as a universal format. And again, dedicated e-readers are becoming irrelevant with the cost of the Amazon Fire, as I said, is down to $50 now. And it doesn't have the e-ink on it, but it is cheaper and it has more functionality. There are pressures to create a more universal format for e-readers, but nothing has come up about that. Alright, on to the next slide. So subscription services for ebooks. The Scribd is partnered with Marvel Comics, Harlequin, and major audiobook producers to provide access to their subscribers. So this is a subscription service for audiobooks and ebooks. They were actually forced to limit the amount of access for romance readers because they were reading too many a month and it was not giving them any line of a profit. They also had to limit the number of audiobooks a month. Many people, including myself, I round trip on a daily basis and in the car an hour to and from work. So the amount of ebooks that I could read in my hour commute once a day is more than one a month. So they weren't getting a profit from that either. And then Amazon is dominating the ebook marketplace. They acquire books cheaply through their own publishing Amazon ecosystem, and they undercut the prices of other booksellers as well. And Amazon Kindle's Unlimited services is a big part of that. You can have a subscription for $9.99 a month. So for under $10 a month, you can have unlimited access to all these titles that you would like. And no one else can afford to compete on this level with them. Print sales are actually holding steady, as many people still like to have a book with them. I am one of these people. I do prefer to read a book in print than on the Kindle, but the Kindle does have some great benefits as well. And then the big five publishing and small to medium-sized publishers now make up a minority of ebook sales. On to the next slide for current status of ebooks. Ebooks are still a minority of book sales and books read. In 2015, 74% of ebooks sold were purchased from Amazon, and 64 million Americans are members of Amazon Prime, again showing Amazon's dominance. I am a member of Amazon Prime myself. Not only do you get the great 2 free-day shipping, but you can also have Amazon Prime. You have access to everything Amazon, so it is a great service. The Apple iBook Store has the second largest market share with only 11% of the total volume. So the second largest market share only has 11% of the total volume, which again shows how dominant Amazon is in this marketplace. And then less than 10% of Americans are reading ebooks exclusively. So if we want to break it down for how Americans are reading, 72% read a book in 2015, 63% read a book in print, and 27% read an ebook. And that equates to less than 10% are reading ebooks exclusively. Most people are reading both ebooks or print books or just print books. I read both. It depends on what I'm doing. So if I'm traveling, especially on a plane, I'll bring my Kindle with me. I can have more books with me. But if I'm just driving somewhere for the weekend and I want to bring a book with me, I definitely bring the print book. I just enjoy holding a book and reading it in that format. And then in 2015, 19% of Americans had dedicated e-readers, which is down from 32% in 2011. And 54% of those ebook readers have read a book on their phone, again showing the switch over to smartphones. On to that next slide, libraries and education with ebooks. So ebooks are also popular in libraries. You can borrow a book for free if you don't want to pay for the subscription services or pay for one yourself. So Overdrive reports that more than 169 million ebooks were borrowed in 2015, which was an increase compared to 2014. The lower cost of electronic publication allows academic and public libraries to significantly expand their content to borrowers more quickly. Ebooks are easier to purchase because they're cheaper and it's easier to get the content over. So that is why libraries are distributing ebooks too. And then ebooks are also playing a part in education. 1/3 of K-12 instructional materials budget is for digital content, and 80% of schools are using digital content in the classroom. And this shows how versatile this digital text is. You can use it for education, you can use it for just reading a book for fun. There's so much use of it. On to the next slide, factors to watch for ebooks. So subscription services are good for readers and for independent writers as it can help grow their audience. As a consumer, it's great. I have all these books at the tip of my fingers. And for independent writers, it's great because if they're part of the subscription service, their book is, they can get into the market a little bit easier. I mean, there's still the competition, but if someone doesn't know who they are, they might take a gamble on their book since they're not purchasing it separately as part of their subscription service. And books are cheaper than ever before, which is awesome. The landscape, like I said, is becoming more competitive for authors. You can have an unlimited stock of ebooks, but you can only have a certain stock of print books, and eventually the print books will come off the shelves in stores. And then the Kindle Unlimited service, like I said, is just under $10 a month, and you can read as many books as you like for this fee. And if you're part of a subscription service like this, buying a book separately, even for as cheap as like $3 a month, will seem way more costly. And then Scribd's relationship with Marvel allows users to subscribe both to books and comics, and it shows the merging of different genres. So comics have become a big part of our pop culture. The movies, there's hundreds of them, it feels like now. And so the comic culture has really grown, so this has been great for that as well. And then, like I said before, the romance genre could wipe out any subscription service if they had unlimited. So there is that cap on it, and I just think it's interesting that this genre has it, and it probably goes to the fact that the romance genre generally tends to be a little bit quicker reads, easier reads, and enjoyable, so someone just sits down and reads the book. And then overall, the impact for publishers and authors has been neutral to negative. The market has become more competitive, but it is easier to publish a book. So there are both those pros and cons to it, and both authors and publishers, they're going to keep bringing out the books. It's just a matter of how competitive it's going to be and what angles they're going to need to use to bring a book to the top of the marketplace. And then Amazon's dominance is unlikely to be challenged, and it hasn't been in the past 3 to 4 years since our book was published. I mean, Amazon does everything. So there's so many services you can buy from them, and not just their ebooks. And then on to the next slide, the biblical perspective of ebooks. So 2 verses came to mind for me when going over the information on the ebooks. The first is from the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 8. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. With ebooks, you can literally have the Bible at the tip of your fingers. You can have it on your smartphone even, and carry it with you in your pocket, essentially. So we are able to refer to it any time of day to see what helpful words of wisdom are in there for us, regardless of the situation that we are coming across in our daily lives. And then the second is from the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse 15. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." Ebooks allow us to be able to not only access the Bible easier, but also books from the Christian genre. So we can take the lessons from the Bible and see how they're applied to the Christian genre of books as well, and really get to have a community of it and, communicate our Christian views and enjoy the stories that other people have written about it and see how it all ties into our daily lives, and we can share the Word of God together. So on to the next slide, the questions I have for you. So how have ebooks impacted your education at both the undergrad and graduate level? And do you think there will be a market for dedicated e-readers in the next 5 years? I hope you all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing your answers to these 2 questions. Thank you.